Hello guys and welcome to another edition of Zero Hanger TV. Your host as always Jake Benoiton, joined by Ed Carmine today, a new face to the product. We're here today to go over some of the best delisted free agents still available that your club may be able to pick up in the summer. Ed, how excited are we to maybe run the rule over a few names?
I think there's probably a few names that probably deserve their place on a list, but as always you have to sort of make cuts to get new blokes in, but we'll see how we go.
Yeah, absolutely mate. As you said, there's a few names there that you're probably a bit surprising, a few delistings. Definitely a couple towards the end that maybe we didn't see coming, but we'll start with one that maybe the writing was a little bit on the wall, and that's Sydney Stack after he departed Punt Road in the off-season. Obviously fell out a bit of favour with a few of the young players at Tigerland taking over the likes of Tyler Swansea, Jack Ross having a really good breakout year. We saw Noah Cumberland come in, Hugo Ralph-Smith playing off that half-back flank as well. Stack probably falling a little bit out of favour there. Through the likes of those players that came in, is there a place that you could see him fitting in possibly? Because I think the Cats could be a spot for him.
Well, I think it's one where Hardwick's done well with his young players in regards to the fact that most get game time.
Yeah.
They've all sort of played multiple roles. Stack's been thrown forward, back, around. VFL sort of playing in multiple roles as well. So it's one where if he's available, sure. I mean, Geelong, they have turned players around.
Yeah.
Got the culture down there as well.
Great culture.
I mean, Premiership has seen with Ty Stengel. I mean, it's one where no task is too hard, it seems. So
yeah, absolutely. I think you only have to look back at Stack's 2019, where there was probably premature talk that he could rival Sam Walsh for the NAB Rising Star. He's played 35 games, 14 goals. I think you mentioned though, there's no set position for him. So he's been a bit of everywhere. I mean, there's no better place to head down to the Cats. And I understand there might be temptation to head back home. WA boy, the Eagles probably looking for someone on the cheap that they can bring in young. But yeah, I think Geelong would be an unbelievable get. I think that Tyson Stengel comparison is definitely one we can reference. Moving on to maybe someone who probably caught a few by surprise that he departed Adelaide, but the recruitment of Isaac Rankin probably spelt the end for James Rowe.
Yeah, I mean, none more surprised than his dad, it seemed. But it's a situation where he knows where the goals are, has obviously been in talks with the Dogs, sort of got a position for him there, I guess. The Dogs, again, Luke Beveridge, one of those coaches that likes his players to play multiple roles, flexibility. So if you're looking for an out-and-out goal scorer, new forward line.
Yeah, I think that new forward line's a big one. He made 27 goals in his 36 games, but you look at the likes of Jamaru Hagan had a breakout second half of the year. He'll only get better. Sam Darcy was massive in that round 23 game against the Hawks that ultimately secured them a finals spot. Rory Lobb comes down. Josh Bruce maybe a little bit out of favour, hasn't been able to recapture any real form since coming back from his ACL injury. It's forward pick 38, Jimmy Rose, so wasn't a half bad under 18s footballer.
No slouch.
Yeah, I think he probably wouldn't come in and play ahead of the likes of Cody Waitman, but you could absolutely see a dead spot. And I guess the running train of thought with these guys will be that they'll come in for free. So he's probably worth the hit. Now, someone that we've definitely seen play some really high level football, but maybe was doomed from the moment Alistair Clarkson entered the doors at North Melbourne, is Jed Anderson. He gets delisted on 99 games, which is incredibly unfortunate, right up there with Brad Fisher as men that I can remember that have missed out on the ton.
Sam Rowe as well, mate.
Sam Rowe, another one that departed Carlton. Can you see a place for Jed Anderson in the Bombers midfield?
Well, I think he probably can, because it's a situation where the Bombers midfield inside, they sort of had problems there as well. A lot of players that like to move the ball outside of the contest, but I suppose you move someone like Jed Anderson in there who, let's face it, loves to tackle.
Yeah.
It's a situation where repeat stoppages create them and allow the likes of Parrish and Shield to go to work after that. Yeah,
we mentioned that Alistair Clarkson coming was probably the writing on the wall for Jed. Obviously didn't thrive at Hawthorn under Clarko, but Brad Scott coming to Essendon, probably on the flip of the coin, the writing on the wall there. He played his best footy under Scott, and Scott loved him, gave him set roles, did a great job with Patrick Cripps, I can remember back in 2020. And he's done a few jobs like that where he's hard, his ability to tackle, he's hard edge in that midfield. He can lock down, unbelievable tackler on his day. I mean, Brad Scott's clearly identified the big body midfielder as a problem for Essendon. Will Setterfield's come in for pretty much nothing, almost another delisted free agent pickup given what they received back from Carlton. Kyle Langford's probably a name they'd look to get some continuity into injury, interrupting his 2022 campaign. That
situation as well where they've sort of been looking to get a few more Indigenous players through the door as well. So Dreamtime game. They've got the Davey brothers coming in at the draft, so it's a situation where mentors there, or midfield mentors, Indigenous mentors, who knows?
Yeah, absolutely, and Essendon have always been a club that have been really strong in that area. He's been training up in Darwin, Jed Anderson, in the off-season, trying to stay fit in a bid to secure a lifeline. I think again, the position Essendon are in, a lot of these sides are in those positions. When you're down towards the bottom of the ladder, a delisted free agent that can come in and maybe play 2 years, 3 years, are incredibly valuable. Now, one that would hopefully play a lot longer than 2 or 3 years if he was to find a spot on the list, Liam Stocker, delisted from Carlton, another one probably a tad surprisingly, only managed a few games this year, a syndesmosis injury at the start of the year, derailing his 2022 campaign. He was pretty solid in 2021. In a blue side that struggled, obviously when Carlton took that step up, maybe he's one that fell out of favour with Michael Voss. Positionally, probably an issue. I mean, he said on SEN Radio not long ago he's fit enough to play AFL football, which has always been a knock on Stocker, but he disagrees with that. Played as a lockdown defender at Carlton, a bit of a running halfback, never really got that midfield time. Now, I think he'd be well suited to Punt Road. However, he probably wouldn't play midfield with Hopper and Taranto going in. How do you see him, if he was to go to Tigerland, do you think Damien Harvey could get the best out of him, given there's a few similarities to the way they play on field?
Well, I think it's a situation as well where Hardwick seems to love players that are hard, ruthless, but they're also open about who they are.
Yeah.
So, I mean, none more so than Liam Stocker of late, sort of opening up about his battles with mental health. But it's a situation where everything he's said this off-season, he seems as though he's hungry to play football and, again, ruthless edge under dimmer. Why not?
I think you saw his VFL form in 2021, the start of this season. He's too good to be playing VFL football. Is he maybe in that paradigm where not quite good enough for AFL, too good for VFL? That's probably a question Liam would have to answer over the next few years. And I mean, I hope for sure he gets the chance. I think there's a really talented footballer. Obviously, a lot of hype when he came into Carlton, given the live trade Stephen Silvani did to get him in, ultimately being a trade for pick 3 for pick 19, and getting Stocker in the door. But as you said, I think he's a great person to have around the club. I think by all reports out of Carlton, they love the person. They could have kept the person, they would have.
He's just a victim of circumstance, really.
100%. Yeah. So I think Richmond could do worse than open the doors. I don't think anyone could do worse than open the doors to Liam Stocker. I want to touch on Quinton Narkle, Ed. WA boy, he's been delisted from the Premiers. I mean, pretty stiff. He couldn't get a game there, but I mean, it's a hard team to get into. Another one that maybe positionally didn't nail down a forward spot or a midfield spot, and Tyson Sneagle sliding in probably took away any chance of him playing forward, and their midfield was pretty solid towards the end of the year. The Eagles need recruits. They desperately need recruits.
Well, I think it's a situation. I was big on Narkle in his draft year. Really liked what he sort of showed on and off the ball, and it's a situation where draftees at Geelong, unless you're sort of coming through the door as the next Joel Selwood, you have to serve an apprenticeship there.
Yeah.
Most players serve that in the VFL, but as you say, 41 games in 5 seasons down at Geelong. He's played AFL football, and West Coast, having been put through the ringer by their own deed and stuff off their own plate this year, Quinton Narkle seems as though he'd be the kind of player that'd be able to play every game over there and possibly play his best football at home. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think you look at the move they made for Sam Petrevski's seat at the end of last year. Obviously, they had to give up a little bit more for that than they would this one. But I think getting those kind of players that want to come home, especially at this point of their rebuild, it's probably not a bad plan. They can hit the draft. They got pick 2, so they can do anything with that. But then if they can look to just bring a few boys back to WA, if you guys want to be there, I mean, it's a nice way to maybe steady the ship and avoid another absolute disastrous season.
Yeah, I think steadying the ship, you said it there perfectly. It's a situation where anything that could go wrong did go wrong for West Coast last year. So it's a situation where hopefully it works for Quinton individually, and hopefully it works for West Coast as a team collective, because Lord knows they need it.
Yeah, absolutely, and so does Quinton. He needs a bit of luck on his side. Now, a name I wanted to bring up with you, he's not a delisted free agent per se, but has recently been linked with the Gold Coast Suns per SEN Sam Edmund. Dan Hanbury. Now, a name that may be a bit touchy for you as a Saints man. Obviously, his time at St Kilda wasn't how anyone dreamt it up, but I mean, you look at his last game against Sydney, for whatever it counts for, he was really good that day. 30 disposals, 13 contested possessions, 6 tackles. I mean, it was a bit of the Hannahs of old. Linked with the Suns. Now, we know they've made some moves for some recycled players in the past, some to varying degrees of success. Rory Atkins maybe one that hasn't worked out, but you look what they've done with Marbiel Chol and Levi Casbolt in the last season, and maybe they've started to screw on their head with that list management purpose. Is there a spot for Dan Hanbury on an AFL list, and more importantly, the Gold Coast Suns list?
I think there probably is, but if you're expecting Dan Hanbury to play football after we've seen across the last half decade, then that's probably on you. But as a team that has so many good young midfielders coming through, someone with Hanbury's footballing now's invaluable. But if you're asking him or wanting him to play consistent football, and I think that's probably a problem.
Yeah, are the Suns in a position where they can say to him, hey, just play the Metricon Stadium games, don't worry about travel, look after your body. Because there's a spot for him where I think you look at their midfield balance now, it's probably their starting three is Miller, Anderson, Rao. Anderson and Rao very much in the infancy of their development. Miller, at the minute, playing that bull role, that real carrying that midfield when he's on.
Yep.
It might just take a little bit of the load off Miller, if not too much, but also probably allows Rao not to be as much of a bull as he wants to be. I mean, I think there's an element with Matt Rao where they've got to protect Matt Rao from Matt Rao.
Well, I think that's a best case scenario you're talking there. And I mean, as someone who paid money to sit there and hopefully watch Dan Hanbury play football over the past 4 years, it didn't pan out that way. But by all accounts from St Kilda, his work on the track, vocally, in terms of team building and all that, it's all there.
Yeah.
And it's a situation where even if he does go up to Carrara for a season or two and never pulls on the jumper, the experience he has for a team so young, invaluable.
What's a pass mark if he does go? Let's say he signs a 1 year deal and he plays there for one season. What's a pass mark games wise?
I don't think we can actually say that because it's a situation where Dan Hanbury is a sort of entity unto himself now.
Yeah.
It's one where he has been paid to be a footballer, but his expertise hasn't actually come out on the football field.
Yeah.
If you were to poll St Kilda players in the midfield, let's look at Jack Sinclair, a guy who made the leap from half back to an All-Australian sort of situation like that. It's one where Hanbury's probably played a massive role in that as well.
Yeah.
Corey Enright too, but who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, staying on the Saints for our final delisted free agent that we think should find a new home, and this one I absolutely think should find a new home. I think Mitch Wallace heading to the Saints seems like a deal that is almost too good to be true for Saints fans. Now, judging Mitch Wallace of his last two seasons, I think it's perhaps a little bit unfair. He managed the 9 games and the 6 goals in that time, but fell out of favour with Luke Beveridge, as some players can tend to do over Bevo's tenure. Fell behind some of the young forwards there too. We mentioned Jamari Ugle-Hagan, Sam Darcy as he came in late in the year, Cody Waitman, another one that probably took that marking small hybrid forward role away from Wallace. But his 2020 season, 25 goals, was the leading goal kicker at the Dogs. Obviously, 25 goals, not a stack of goals, but shortened quarters, shortened games. I think we have to remember how hard goals were in that year. And I like the idea of going to St Kilda because I think a few of the Saints forwards, there's maybe a bit of question marks on a few. Cooper Sharman, what is he? I think we're a little bit unsure now. Brett Ratton obviously threw him around a little bit throughout last season. And then you look at their small forwards, Dan Butler, Jack Higgins. I mean, their best is very good. We saw Dan Butler's best in 2020 and Higgins at the start of 2022. But as small forwards can do, it's a hard role when you're not in the game. You're almost invisible. And St Kilda have relied a lot under Brett Ratton on their small forwards. Ross Lyon, maybe they might turn back to the key twin towers that he had with Rewald and Kaczynski, and that leaves them with Max King and Tim Membry at the moment. I think Wallace could be a great filter, mainly for Tim Membry. I think Membry, I've been big on the fact that I think he's the perfect third tall. Size-wise, ability to jump. He's an incredibly difficult matchup for a third tall defender in the silk and the mould of Gary Rowan. I think you see what Gary Rowan does with his athletic ability and his attributes. He becomes an incredibly hard matchup for third tall defenders. Tim Membry, I think, can match that, except he plays as a second tall at the moment. Now, Wallace might not take the second tall, but it's just another filter for St Kilda to go through. Do you think the move would work?
Well, I think it's a situation where if you look at Mitch Wallace, the numbers tell you something, but it's also the situation that Mitch Wallace is an extremely intelligent, kind and calm influence.
Yeah.
You look at Jack Higgins, intelligence maybe not, calm probably not, kind who knows, but it's a situation where if you have someone down there steadying him, Butler as well, who comes in and out of the game almost at will it seems, and Sharman, it's a situation with Sharman where he played an incredibly good negating role against Geelong in the St Kilda's win over them, but where he plays is, like you say, still up in the air. But Mitch Wallace, you'd probably be silly not to roll the dice on someone like him, I think. So
yeah, absolutely. I think he's only 30. And you got to remember as well, this year he lost his mother-in-law, which was tragic, and obviously that has an effect on everyone if you go through something like that. So I think I'm willing, if using the old horse racing analogy, I'm willing to give his last 2 years a complete forgive and write them off and go back to his best form, which we've seen back in the hub. But if there are any delisted free agents, guys, that we have missed out on that you think could land at your club, please let us know in the comments below. Remember to like, share and subscribe this video, and stay tuned to zerohanger.com for all the latest news, views and opinions as we head towards the 2022 draft and the 2023 AFL season.